Can you say that you're rooted in His grace? Welcome to this week's devotional. So glad that you joined me. Kind of a strange question to start out our time together, isn't it? Are we really rooted in His grace? Do we know that we have forgiveness? Do we know that we have hope? Even more than that, do we have the assurance of everlasting life? So often we continually quote the whole fact of how if we accept Him, we are forgiven. But do we really believe that? I know for a lot of us that's a hard-hitting core thing when someone questions us at the very center of our theology. But maybe it's time that we start asking that of each other constantly. Do you have the assurance that you're saved? So often, I don't know about you, but growing up, the whole concept that was drilled into our brains in a generation was the fact of how, hey, none of this once saved, always saved. You know, we too often, when it comes to that and other theologians, we mislook, we misread at what they're talking about. Even Calvin in his writings comes across of saying that in this moment, I can say that I have the assurance of salvation. And, the whole concept of once saved, always saved is coming from his disciples. And we see this with Luther, we see this with Zwingli, we even see this with the early apostles, how their followers, the people that they taught, start to misinterpret what they said and make a whole new radical ideology that wasn't even supposed to be there. Even when we look within our own context, we have a lot of our own writers that mentions that I can say with assurance in this moment that I am saved. So that if something does happen, the next thing I know is I will see the face of Jesus and I'll live with him for eternity. Now, honestly, that is something that we need to know and have the inner grounding working in Jesus of that assurance. I should be so sure of where my faith is grounded in that the next person that I meet, I can share with them the joy of Jesus because that joy is continually changing my life. Because it's changing my life, I want to go and share that with others so that they are able to experience that joy. And it's just like lighting a fire. All it takes is one spark, and you have no idea what's going to happen to that next person and how they're going to change the world. Are we ready to be the examples that God is continually calling us to be? Now, even especially like when we look at the Great Commission, Jesus called the disciples, the apostles at the time, and even more on down through history. But let's pause right there. It wasn't just in that time. From the very beginning of time itself, the Great Commission has always been. We have been called to live radical lives that are different from the norm. That when people see us, it's not just that they see that we love one another, that we have a relationship with Jesus, but that we are drastically different from everyone around us. Now, I hate to say it, but a lot of us can't say that. It's easier to go with the norm that's around us than to be a different thing, a different ideology, a different norm that brings attention to what's going on. This is why it's important to be together, to grow together, to study the word constantly. This is why we have these times together weekly. I mean, yes, I'll be the first to say there have been a number of times that we have not been able to because of circumstances that are beyond our control. But that's why we come back to the Bible. That's why we continue to study, so that we learn more together, so that we're rooted in Jesus, so that we're able to point others to him as well. Which, speaking of that, that actually brings us to the devotional verse for this week, which is found in Ephesians chapter 1, looking at verses 6 to 8. And it says this: To the praise of the glory of his grace, which he freely bestowed on us in the beloved. In him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses, according to the riches of his grace, which he lavished on us in all wisdom and insight. I love that concept of lavished, because what we don't get from modern day, and we have to go back into linguistics and even to the culture of that time, to lavish something upon someone is literally, to use an old adage, is to fill their cup so full that it runs and flows over. It's so much. And then more and more and more. The whole bounty of heaven is given to us, bestowed on us, so that we're able to go and share that with other people, to continue to share his grace, his love, and his goodness continually, no matter what. Thank you again for joining me. Look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to study God's Word together. God bless.